I've got four comic books in front of me. One is worth less than $1, another about $500, a third about $2,000, and believe it or not, one of these books is worth $20,000. They're all just paper, so why in the heck is one worth pocket change and another one is worth more than my car? Stick around to find out which one is which, and more importantly, why some books cost more than others. Hey, how you doing? I'm Keston. Thanks so much for joining me. In today's video, we'll talk about how to value a comic book. And here's why that's important. Imagine that you're buying or selling a particular book, and the person you're dealing with is a lot more knowledgeable than you are. Well, you might just open yourself up to a world of pain and you might lose a lot of money. It's like going to a car dealership without doing any homework ahead of time. Let's not do that with your own comic book transactions. Let's make sure that you're prepared. And one of the ways to be prepared is to know the value of a comic book. We're going to talk about three general factors that contribute to value, as well as how to establish the fair market value of a particular book at a particular grade. A quick shout out to my friends and early subscribers who suggested this topic: Herb, Kurt, Brian, Mike, and Laura. I appreciate your support. And Kurt, you also suggested to make the videos a little bit better that I should add some more cowbell. Great suggestion. So keep an eye out, or better yet, keep an ear out for that cowbell. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk about the three general factors that contribute to value. They are notability, rarity, and condition. Notability. Essentially, that is, did something cool happen in that comic book? Was it a first appearance of a major character, a cool storyline, a classic cover, or maybe it's the first issue in an important series? Or it could be some combination of them. Let me give you an example. If you look behind me, you'll see a metal tin, and it shows Amazing Fantasy number 15. That's the first appearance of Spider-Man. Think about how many people know about the web crawler. It's a ton, billions and billions and billions. Therefore, that's a great example of something really important, really notable happening in a comic book. Notability, of course, drives demand. The more notable the book, the higher the demand. The next general factor is supply or rarity. In general, the rarer the book, the more valuable it will be. Let's examine four well-known books from different comic book ages. This will give you a sense of the relationship between an age of a book and its rarity. We'll start with a modern age book and then work our way back down. First up is New Mutants 98 from 1991. This is the first appearance of Deadpool. There are over 100,000 copies still in existence. Now to the Bronze Age with Hulk 181 from 1974. This is the first full appearance of Wolverine. About 75,000 copies are around. Silver Age, Amazing Fantasy number 15 from 1962. This, of course, is the first appearance of Spider-Man, and there are 15,000 copies or so. Now let's go all the way back to the golden age of comic books, and we'll talk about Action Comics number 1 from 1938, which is the first appearance of Superman. Believe it or not, there are only about 200 copies in existence. As you can see, the older the book is, the rarer it is. And in fact, the golden age books are typically several orders of magnitude rarer than modern books. How do you know if a book is golden age or silver age? Look at the cover price. If the book originally cost 10 cents, it's golden age. If it's 12 cents, it's silver age. Not all books from these periods are worth a lot of money, but the probability that they're worth a lot of money is a lot higher. The third factor is condition. You might be surprised to find out that two copies of the same book can differ in price as much as tenfold or even 100-fold. For example, this copy of Amazing Fantasy number 15 cost about $10,000, and this copy is almost $1 million. The difference is in condition. Let's dig in. Comic books are evaluated on a scale that ranges from 0 to 10. On the lower end of that scale, a book can look like a rag. Oftentimes, pieces are missing, and it's just ugly. On the other side of the continuum, a book looks fresh. It's probably never been read, and it looks like it just came off the newsstand the day before. There are also naming conventions that go along with the scale. A few of the major grades include a 1 for fair, 2 good, 4 very good, 6 fine, 8 very fine, 9 very fine / near mint, and 9.4 is a near mint copy. Now let's overlay condition with price. And we'll use Amazing Fantasy 15 as our example. At a 1, this book costs $10,000. At a 2 is $20,000. At 4, $40,000. At 6, $70,000. At 8, there's a huge jump up to $200,000. At a 9, it's $400,000. And at 9.4, it goes up to $800,000. Let me acknowledge that Amazing Fantasy 15 is the most expensive Silver Age book. Nevertheless, the pattern of how the price increases across grades is pretty similar for all Silver and Golden Age books. That is, that the price moves up linearly to about 6.5, and then it shoots up exponentially. As you can see, from a 6 to an 8, the price goes up a lot, then it doubles again to a 9, and doubles again at a 9.4. You might wonder why books are so expensive over a 6.5. That's because for Silver Age and Golden Age books, this was a time when kids actually read the comic books. So if you find a book that still survives today, most of them look like they've been read 100 times because they have been read 100 times. So to find one that looks relatively untouched is rare indeed. For example, CGC, which is the largest third-party grader of comic books, has rated over 3,300 copies of Amazing Fantasy 15. Of those, only 24 grade out at a 9.0 or higher that are unrestored, so truly rare in high grade. You combine this conditional rarity with collectors who love high grade books, you end up with these explosive prices at the nosebleed grades. Those ballpark figures that I gave you for Amazing Fantasy 15, they're going to be outdated really soon. And the 3 general factors that we've been talking about, they'll get you part of the way there for pricing, but not all the way. You're going to need more specific tools that'll give you a more precise estimate for how much a book costs if you're buying or selling it. And we'll talk about 3 strategies for doing so in just a couple minutes. And if you stay around to the very end, I'll share with you what happens when a book has all the right ingredients. That is, it's notable, it's rare, and in high condition. But for the time being, let's go back to the very beginning of the video. If you recall, we talked about 4 different books. One is worth less than $1, one $500, another $2,000, and one of these books is worth $20,000. We're going to talk about the value of each one of those, and we're going to talk about that value related to the 3 factors that we've been talking about for the last few minutes. The first book is Spider-Man 2099, issue number 6. It's from 1993, or in other words, it's a modern book. The book's not all that notable. It's prevalent, and the condition's about a fine. In other words, somebody's not even going to pay you the cover price of $1.25 for this book. By the way, most books from the 1980s forward are like this book, that you're not going to be able to get your money back from what you originally spent on it. With that being said, I'm going to hit you up with a modern book that is worth quite a bit of money. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 300 from 1988. It's notable because it's the first appearance of Venom, and collectors are wild about this book. That being said, it's still prevalent. There are likely over 100,000 copies of this book that are still around. And the condition for this book is about a fine, which is selling for about $500 these days. The point being is if you have a book that's got a ton of demand, even if it's relatively prevalent, people will still pay high dollar for it. Next up is Avengers number 1 from 1963. This is the first time that all these folks got together, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Ant-Man, and Wasp, to form the Avengers. In fact, there is a little known movie that came out from Disney called The Avengers and whatever the 8 dozen other movies that are associated with it. So this book is extremely well known, very notable, a lot of demand for it. In terms of scarcity, I mean, it's scarce but not rare. There might be 15,000 copies around. And in terms of grade, the grade is relatively low for this book. It's about a 2.5. Furthermore, this book is actually the UK edition, not the US edition. So that brings down the price a little bit too. So all things considered, a highly desirable book, scarce but not rare, and the condition is relatively low. This is about $2,000, maybe $2,500 on a good day. The last book is Seven Seas Comics number 4. It's from 1947. This book is exceptionally notable because of the cover. It's done by all-time great artist Matt Baker, and this is considered to be one of the top 2 or 3 covers, maybe the top cover that he's ever done. It's absolutely stunning. And there's a group or a subgroup of Golden Age collectors that really love Matt Baker. So the demand is really high for this book for a small subset of people. Now let's go to Rarity. This book is rare. It's Golden Age. I'd be surprised if there's more than 100 or 200 copies total in existence. In grade, it's a 6.5. This book is so tough to find in grade. There's only a handful of books that are graded higher than 6.5. Let's run down the list. A notable classic cover, rarity, and a condition of 6.5. All these factors mean that this copy of 7 Seas Comics number 4 is $20,000. At this point, you might be scratching your head. Keston, I get it. There are 3 general factors that help price a comic book. But how do you go from those general factors to the very precise estimates that you gave for those 4 books? The truth of the matter is, I couldn't just use those 3 general factors. I needed tools to give me more precise estimates. I'm going to share 3 of those tools with you right now. The first tool is the classic way of looking up a comic book's value. It's the Overstreet price guide, also known as the Bible to many comic book collectors. The first edition came out in 1970. This is the 50th edition. It provides the prices of thousands of books at various grades. In addition to the pricing, there are also numerous articles that provide in-depth information about how to be a collector in the hobby. This is an absolute must-have for any comic book collector. Nevertheless, I wouldn't use these estimates as the only estimates when you're looking at comic book value. And here's the reason. This book comes out about once a year. In between publications, the prices can change dramatically for a book, month to month, and even week to week. And that brings me to the next tool. It's the eBay method. Now we're on eBay. In the search box, I'm going to put in Amazing Spider-Man 300 6.0. If you recall, this book is the first appearance of Venom, and the copy that I showed you, I estimated the grade to be a 6.0, which translates into fine. Let's click the search button and see what shows up. So we see many books here. These are books that are currently on sale and the asking prices for these books. The asking price isn't necessarily what somebody's going to pay for the book, however. So we need to switch over to the left-hand column and refine our search. So scroll down a little bit and you'll see the show only option. And I'm going to click sold items. Now we're going to see books that have actually sold. The most recent sale was May 10th, 2021, and this book sold for $799. Let's scroll down a little bit. Here's a book from April 16th, $454, April 10th, $512, April 8th, some number below 500, a best offer was accepted. And here's another book that sold for $610. So I believe that my estimate of $500 is roughly about right. Now, nevertheless, the most recent sale was sky high. Is that an aberration or is that where the book is now? I'm not sure. Something else to point out is that the books that you see here are slab. They've been graded, professionally graded by CGC, and that grade is guaranteed. The book that I had was raw. I think it's a 6.0, but that's not guaranteed. Generally, people pay more for the books that are graded. I'm not going to go in depth in this video about grading or raw versus CGC, but I do provide some references in the description box. In general, eBay is a great tool if you're looking at modern age keys. These books sell at an incredible volume, so you can often get a comparable price in the last month and often in the last week for a particular book in a particular grade. However, if you're interested in looking at the older books, the books from the Golden Age or Silver Age, then I would suggest a different tool. We're here at the homepage for GPA analysis. If you're into Silver Age and Golden Age books that cost a lot of money, the $10 a month it costs for the subscription is well worth it. I'm going to log in here. And we land on this Analyze Prices page. I'm going to search for Amazing Fantasy, because we're going to look at Amazing Fantasy number 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. You might note that there's quite a few titles that are related to Amazing Fantasy. We want the one that starts with 1962. Issue number 15. Here we go. Let me orient you to the table. On the far left, we see rating or grade, and the grades are listed from the highest all the way down. Let me also note that the blue boxes is what we want to look at. The blue boxes represent unrestored copies of a particular book. They always cost more than their restored counterparts. The pink boxes are books that have been restored. For example, this 9.8, which is the highest grade that you could typically see for a silver or golden age book, it's been trimmed. That means the edges have literally been cut off to make it look better. That is not going to be worth as much as a book that is universally graded. So the highest universally graded book that shows up here on GPA analysis is this 9.6, and it sold back in March 2011 for $1.1 million. That's right, $1.1 million. Not surprising, as it was the highest graded copy at the time of Amazing Fantasy number 15. You might recall at these nosebleed grades, the price goes up exponentially. Let's look at a book that is a little bit more attainable, but still really expensive. We'll go for a 4.5. This is a very good plus. So the latest copy, the most recent copy, is sold for $42,000 back in March of 2021. Let's go down to a 2.5. In the 2.5, we see this book sold for $27,600 in May 2021. You may recall earlier that I said this book is selling for about $10,000 a point up to the upper mid grades. And with our spot checks here, that looks to be about right. Now, let me go back to something we talked about earlier in the video as well. What happens when a book that is highly notable, really rare, and in high grade all come together, all has the right ingredients? We're going to take a look at Action Comics number 1. There's been a recent sale that has been super high. 1938, issue number 1. And folks, here we go. $3.25 million, April 2021. This is the most money that anybody has ever spent on a comic book, period. $3.25 million. Congratulations to buyer and seller, and to Comic Connect for brokering that deal. There's one more burning question. Should I be using more or less cowbell? Let me know in the comment box. Thanks so much for hanging with me. If you like the content, please click on that like button, or better yet, subscribe. Good luck with your comic collecting, and I hope to see you around real soon.